Hi, this is Mike Gant, and this is Biblical Living. This is episode 16. Welcome back. We're talking about the ministry of grandfathers, and we began last time by talking about the fourth day of creation, I think it is. God creates the sun and the moon and the stars, and that symbolizes, among other things, it symbolizes the structure of the nuclear family. Father being the sun, mother being the moon, and children being the stars. And we see this play out later in the book of Genesis, in chapter 37, when Joseph has dreams and tells them to his family. And he had this dream where the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to him. And Jacob, his father, immediately interprets that to be saying, and he asked Joseph, he said, "Are you saying that your mother and I and your brothers are going to all bow down to you?" And Joseph is sincere. He's naive. But he's sincere. He's had this dream from God, and he explains it. Now, dreams would feature prominently in Joseph's life later on. God obviously had his hand on him. But at that time, his brothers did not appreciate that God might be using Joseph to help them. All they could see was that this was a son that was favored by Jacob, and they didn't like that. They were jealous of him. And it appears from other texts that David was a faithful son, and they hated him even more. They weren't doing what they were supposed to, and the last thing they needed, was one from their ranks to be doing right. Just like, kids in school who don't want to do well don't like a smart kid busting the curve all the time. I think in Australia they say cut down the tall poppy. So Joseph was foreshadowing the sort of treatment Jesus would get when he walked the earth. So we've got this imagery of order in the family: father, mother, children, sun, moon, stars. And this imagery is used in various places in the Bible, and it becomes an idiom where they say, the sun turned dark and the moon turned to blood, and it can be used to typify not just a family, but the larger society or the nation, because that's what family is. It's just an extension. A nation is just all the families in the nation. And when order was going to break down, that's when the sun and the moon start, they're not following their normal courses, and everything goes into chaos because, we run our lives by the sun and the moon. They did so even more in ancient time, where they didn't have wristwatches and smartphones like we do to run their lives by those, but they really did depend on the regular course of these of the planets. And we still depend on today. We're just not as aware of it because, as I say, we've got these personal devices that enable us to sort of override that for a little bit. But now I want to switch to a different sort of image and talk also about how they looked at the end times. I should have said that the sun, moon, stars wording was used whenever they anticipated the old age passing away and the new age coming. Throughout Old Testament times, they looked forward to the coming of the kingdom of God and a new age to break the world free from the bondage that it was in because of the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden. So it said, it'll be a great time. It'll be a time of wonder, but also a time of great tribulation. And then that tribulation would culminate in the orders, there being a new order of things. And the old order passes away. The sun, moon, stars pass away. It's a whole new thing. New heavens and a new earth. That's the type of imagery that the prophets were using, the type of words that they used to describe it, painting word pictures. Well, another image was one that was used in the book of the prophet Jeremiah. And I'll read it. It's just 6 verses. This is the story of the potter and the clay. Jeremiah 18, verses 1 through 6. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will announce my words to you. Then I went down, this is Jeremiah talking, then I went down to the potter's house, and there he was, making something on the wheel. So you can picture this potter's wheel. He's making it turn with his feet probably. But the vessel he was making of clay was spoiled in the hand of the potter, so he remade it into another vessel, as it pleased the potter to make. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, so after Jeremiah saw this, then the thought comes to him, or maybe he heard a physical word. I wasn't there, I don't know. He says, Can I not, O house of Israel, deal with you as this potter does, declares the Lord. Behold, like the clay in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. So that is the imagery that we can use to understand what God was doing when he's making a new heavens and a new earth. Now, we know that the second coming of Christ occurred when Jesus said it would, which was late in the 1st century. We don't have time to go and prove that now, but check out my website and you'll see I've got all the documentation. And it was a spiritual change. The heavens and the earth that Jesus was talking about destroying and recreating were in the spiritual dimension, which we can't physically see, but we know is there. We know there's more to life than what we can see and hear and taste and touch and feel, or touch and feel are the same thing. We know there's more there, but we don't know exactly what, if the Bible tells us what. So this imagery of a new heavens and new earth, where the potter, he's making something and it breaks. Okay, that's God. We can infer from that God made the original creation, and Adam and Eve spoiled it by their sin. So God didn't give up and throw the thing away and start it over. Like the potter, he made it into something else. What did he make it into? Well, he took creation. Remember, he originally told the man and the woman to go and to fill the earth and to be fruitful and multiply. And they were to conquer the earth. They were to have dominion over it. But they messed up coming right out of the starting gate. And so God had to refashion the earth. And what did he do? He refashioned it into a classroom. We're down here to learn. And we're to learn from the things we suffer, which is what Jesus learned from. That's not to say we can't learn from good times, but you learn more from suffering. And our sufferings are not random, but God is overseeing this life, and a lot of the sufferings we have in life we bring on ourselves. And there's learning in that, right? Because if you're getting bad results, it's an inducement to change your behavior. But it's even better to learn directly from the Bible how to live, and then we don't have to learn the hard way. So we can learn the easy way, or we can learn the hard way, is through experience. So some sufferings we bring on ourselves, some we do not bring on ourselves. The story of Job tells the story of a man who did not deserve to suffer. And of course that prefigured Jesus, who was the ultimate man who did not need or deserve to suffer. So that's the plan going forward, was that we are going to learn. But God had to change the heavens and the earth, the spiritual ones, because they were wired for the original creation. What does that mean? Well, in the original creation, when you sinned, you died. And when you died, you went below to a place called Sheol, or Hades in Greek. And so the universe had 2 dimensions and 3 tiers. The 2 dimensions were what you can contact through your 5 physical senses, and then the unseen dimension, the spiritual dimension. And, that's where God and angels dwell. So 2-dimensional, physical and spiritual, seen and unseen. 3 tiers, heaven above, Earth is here, and then Sheol, Hades below. When people died, they went below. Everyone went there, the netherworld. And what Jesus came to change was to make that heaven and earth pass away, and he's going to remake it into a new heaven and earth that had no place below. That original heaven and earth, it was the audiovisual aid for that was the sky and the earth and the sea, the heavens and the earth and the oceans. The height of heaven, earth is where we are. The oceans are the deep. Sometimes the ocean is called the deep or the deeps, the depths. And he's going to do away with that lower portion and instead take us to heaven when we die. Why would he do that? Because he's great. He's wonderful. He's kind. He's generous. And he wants to comfort us for the suffering that we endure, particularly the suffering that we don't deserve. He wants to find ways to comfort us in eternity. And that life goes on forever and ever. We never die again. So that's why it says in the book of Revelation, and there is no new heavens and a new earth, and there is no longer any sea. What it's saying is there's no longer any way for anybody to go down. The earth is it. We're not going down when we die anymore. Ever since the second coming, we go up to heaven. And that's also why Jesus, that miracle he did when he walked on water, one of the things that illustrate, or the main thing that illustrated, is that we can walk on water. We're not going down anymore. We only go up at heaven. Everybody used to go down. Everybody, good and bad. Now everybody goes up. Now where we're going to be, that's going to be God's choice. That's going to have to do with how we lived here and his final judgment on our life here. So, live the best life you can. Not the best for you, the best for him. That's the big difference. Best from his point of view. Okay, so we'll pick it up here next time on the Ministry of Grandfathers. That you might be wondering, how are we ever going to get to that? We will get to that. It won't be that long. Thanks for letting me tell you about this. These are wonderful things. We serve a wonderful God.